With the third pick in the 2009 NBA draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select James Harden of Arizona State University. Maybe a bit of a surprise, at least to the crowd.
Harden was selected with the third overall pick in the 2009 NBA draft by the Oklahoma City Thunder. He recorded the fourth highest three-point percentage in NBA history for a player under the age of 21 during the 2009-2010 season. He connected on 7 straight three-point field goals in 2 consecutive games, recording the most consecutive three-point makes by a rookie since Houston guard Michael Dickerson made 8 straight in May 1999. He was named to the All-NBA Rookie Second Team at the conclusion of the season. During the 2010-2011 season, he scored 10-plus points on 54 occasions, including a season-high 26 points against the Phoenix Suns on March 6, 2011. Harden averaged 16.8, 4.1 rebounds, and 3.17 assists in 62 games on only 2 starts during the lockout-shortened 2011-2012 season, and received the NBA's Sixth Man of the Year award. It's extremely important for me to note here that at this time, the Thunder had built an incredible roster off of drafting. This was before the NBA super teams were really the thing. There were the Celtics who had the big 3, but the Oklahoma City Thunder drafted Westbrook, Durant, James Harden, Serge Ibaka. They drafted a dynasty-type team, and James Harden fit in so well coming off the bench. As a sixth man, he was already being regarded as having the potential to be the next Manu Ginobili, maybe even better, as he was just as crafty and also a left-hander. As an NBA fan, I loved James Harden. I loved the way he was so deadly coming off the bench and how he made it cool and okay not to start. High school coaches and college coaches alike all over the country were using him as a prime example of how you could still impact the game, be an all-star, and even become a Hall of Famer in the six-man position. Basketball is a team sport, and he was doing what it took for his team to win, and they were going to be a dynasty, right?
Mark, did this surprise you, or did the people in the inner circles of the NBA see this coming?
Not this soon, because the deadline for an extension for Harden is Wednesday night at midnight. But they didn't want to give Harden the max. Their position was everyone who's re-signed here has sacrificed a little something, even Durant.
This trade was a blow to true basketball fans all over the globe. But in all honesty, we kind of knew the potential and the Hall of Fame material that James Harden possibly possessed. So in the beginning, we couldn't be too mad at him wanting a larger role. Disappointed, but understanding. After failing to agree on a contract extension with the Thunder, Harden was traded to the Houston Rockets on October 27, 2012. Rockets general manager Daryl Morey called Harden a foundational player and expected him to be Houston's featured player, despite previously playing only off the bench in a role behind Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. On October 3, 2012, Harden signed a contract extension with the Rockets for 5 years worth $80 million. That same day, he became the first ever NBA player to score 37 or more points while registering a double-digit assist total in his team debut, posting 37 points, a career-high 12 assists, 6 rebounds, 4 steals, and 1 block in a 105-96 win over the Detroit Pistons. It seemed as if James Harden had gotten exactly what he wanted. He was averaging more points, and he was the centerpiece of a playoff contention team. Over the first 2 months of the 2014-2015 season, Harden was in MVP contention, scoring over 40 points 3 times in a 6-game stretch. In April 2015, he became the first player in franchise history to have 2 50-point games in a season. He helped the Rockets win their first division title since 1994 and clinched the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. Harden was again named to the All-NBA First Team and finished second in MVP voting behind Stephen Curry in 2015. However, there were some holes in James Harden's game. James Harden set an NBA playoff single-game record for turnovers when he committed 12 midway through a fourth quarter of a Game 5 in the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors. Now, it's important to note that turnovers are a part of being a guard, especially when you're facilitating. LeBron James, Chris Paul, John Stockton, you'll see a lot of the greatest point guards, Magic Johnson, had some of the most turnovers. But what James Harden was doing was record-breaking. Him and Russell Westbrook were pure turnover machines. But to average NBA fans, Harden was scoring 40 a night, 30 a night, shooting the lights out, and that's all they really cared about, and the NBA loved it. And so the beard was born. On July 9th, 2016, Harden signed another 4-year, $118 million contract extension with the Rockets. In September 2016, new Rockets head coach Mike D'Antoni announced that Harden would take on the point guard role to begin the 2016-2017 season. In the Rockets season opener on October 26th, Harden had 34 points, a career-high 17 assists, and 8 rebounds, becoming just the second player in NBA history to record at least 30 points, 15 assists in an opener. On December 31st, 2016, Harden recorded one of the greatest triple-doubles of all time, with 53 points, 17 assists, and 16 rebounds in a win versus the Knicks, becoming the first player in NBA history with the 50-15-15 stat line. He tied Wilt Chamberlain for the most points in a triple-double in NBA history. Unfortunately, Harden would go on to lose once again in the playoffs, in a 5-game series to the San Antonio Spurs. Nobody could really fault him though, as he did average 24, 25 points, almost 10 assists, and like 5 rebounds a game. And being the fact that the Spurs had Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and a vintage Kawhi Leonard coming into his prime, it was somewhat understandable that James Harden was unable to get over to the hump and get the Houston Rockets into the finals. On July 8th, 2017, Harden signed a 4-year contract extension with the Rockets for approximately $160 million, giving him a total 6-year deal with $228 million guaranteed, the richest NBA contract in NBA history. On November 5th, he scored a career-high 56 points over the Utah Jazz, falling just shy of Calvin Murphy's 57-point franchise record set in 1978. Harden would go on to reward the Rockets for trusting in him, as in return, he gave them an MVP season and a scoring title. However, once again, James Harden would struggle late in the playoffs and be eliminated by Stephen Curry and the Warriors. Harden would shoot only 2 of 13 from 3, where he was able to put up 32 points, but majority of his shots were from the free throw line, and his team was extremely inefficient and unable to close out in a Game 7. It seemed like a repeatable pattern. James Harden would get a huge max contract, he would score a bunch of points in the regular season, and then disappear late in the playoffs, and his team just could not reach the finals. Daryl Morey and the Rockets were willing to do just about anything to help James Harden get over that hump. After an unsuccessful pairing with Dwight Howard and a tumultuous dumpster fire of a season with Chris Paul, the Rockets decided to listen to James Harden and let him play GM. And on July 16th, 2019, Russell Westbrook was traded to the Houston Rockets for All-Star Chris Paul, 2 protected first-round picks, and 2 first-round pick swaps. Russell Westbrook and James Harden would become the first NBA duo to both average 30 points a game. However, at times it was very inefficient, wasn't pretty to watch, the turnovers were astronomical, and they really struggled and flopped around at times, offensively, mostly due to the fact that Russell Westbrook couldn't shoot, and they were unable to get the rest of their team involved. They had 2 ball-dominant guards, and it really just cost the offense its flow and motion. Not to mention that James Harden and Russell Westbrook aren't exactly Defensive of the Year player candidates. And in the 2020 playoffs, they would match up in a first round with Chris Paul, who was looking for revenge and a chance to prove that it was James Harden who was the problem, not him, and that they made a major mistake by letting him go to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
This is who he's been his whole time in the career, his commitment to excellence. This OKC team would not be that good without that second coach on the floor named Chris Paul.
Chris Paul would go on to outduel both Westbrook and James Harden. With his grit, determination, effort, and defense, he was able to will a lottery-picked team like the Thunder into a Game 7 against the Houston Rockets.
Some people are built for it. Some people shy away from it. Some people are built for it, man. Houston got its hands on it. Dort for 3, blocked by Harden. Dort got it back, tried to throw it off Harden, and missed him. It's Rockets basketball with .5 to go.
It was kind of ironic that the game would end on a James Harden block shot, considering that James Harden didn't play very much defense at all in the series, and only had 9 points in a Game 7 against the Oklahoma City Thunder and Chris Paul. Houston would go on to be eliminated in the next round by the Lakers, and during the offseason, general manager Daryl Morey and head coach Mike D'Antoni would both part ways with the Houston Rockets, and James Harden would demand a trade and ask to leave Houston himself shortly after. After such an ugly divorce with the Houston Rockets and so many postseason failures, a lot of people started pointing the finger at James Harden himself. They were looking at the shots he was taking, the lack of effort, the bad defense, the turnovers. You can have all the success in the regular season you want, but if you don't play well in the playoffs, you look like a scrub. Was James Harden overrated? With people no longer fearing the beard and losing respect for James Harden, James knew that this was the time. At 32 years old, it was now or never. How many prime years did he have left? He had to win a title to be considered one of the greats. And in his ear in the offseason was former teammate, former MVP, and future Hall of Famer, Kevin Durant. See, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving had teamed up, and they were looking to get themselves a little super team. And James Harden was just the ingredient they thought they needed.
Do you have enough to beat the Lakers? I'm not sure about that, but if you had Harden, there would be no doubt that the Brooklyn Nets would be the favorites.
The Brooklyn Nets were favored to win the NBA title that year. However, unfortunately for Durant, Kyrie, and James Harden, they would never meet their goal, mostly due to their own prima donna behavior, shooting themselves in the foot, with Kyrie talking about how the earth was flat, Kevin Durant being out on injury, and James Harden trying to be a quote-unquote facilitator. Here's a timeline of the disaster that was the Brooklyn Nets. July 2019, the Nets signed Kyrie Irving and acquired Durant via a sign-and-trade deal with the Warriors. March 2020, the Nets fire head coach Kenny Atkinson and replace him with interim coach Jackie Vaughn. Atkinson had Brooklyn in a position to reach the playoffs, despite Durant missing the entirety of the 2019-2020 season. September 2020, Steve Nash becomes the Nets head coach. Irving causes a stir when he says that he doesn't really see the Nets as having a head coach.
It's also going to change the way we see coaches. I don't really see us having a head coach. You know what I mean?
January 2021, Harden comes, forms the Big Three with Durant and Irving after being sent to Brooklyn as part of a 4-team trade. Now, it's very important we pause here because this is the main point of my video and why I believe James Harden was the most overrated NBA player of all time. By 2022, NBA fans and the NBA itself had realized that they had been scammed by James Harden. Now, you might ask me, Keegan, what was James Harden doing that was scamming the NBA? He was manipulating the referees and getting foul calls with unnatural movements and scoring off of the free throw line. He was shooting inefficiently, having horrible games, but somehow manipulating his way to the free throw line to stat pad. And the worst part is, he had been doing this for years, but by 2021, referees were finally instructed to not call fouls drawn by unnatural motions, such as an offensive player leaning or jumping into contact. And suddenly, James Harden's points per game drastically dropped. A lot of people will say this was due to injury, but in my opinion, it also had to do with him manipulating the foul calling system. How many times did you watch James Harden just hawk up 3 after 3 after 3 after 3, all while shooting 2 for 12 from three-point land, but still somehow scoring 35 points, having 10 assists with 8 turnovers? It wasn't good basketball, but to the casual fans who didn't know any better and just read stat lines, they had no idea just how bad they were being swindled. Getting back to the Nets timeline, James Harden and Kyrie Irving would end up being out during the playoffs, where Kevin Durant would put the Nets on his shoulders and come inches away from beating Giannis and the Bucks.
All right, the Nets look at inbound. Jeff Green gets it into Durant. Here is Durant moving on Tucker. He turns, he shoots. Yes! With 1 second remaining.
If he just didn't wear a size 20-something shoe, they would have went to the finals, and maybe him, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving would have got a ring out of all this. But that wasn't the case. Kyrie Irving and James Harden would go on to play the blame game, neither one wanting to take credit for what was not happening with the Brooklyn Nets when KD would be out. And even worse, James Harden was complaining about the facilitator role that he was so excited to play, saying that he wasn't able to play his James Harden style of basketball and that he needed to get away. So in James Harden fashion, he demanded another trade.
Sage, James Harden wants a trade to the 76ers today, I'm told. He has not told the Nets specifically that. I'm told he is has a lot of trepidation about the idea of publicly of asking out of two different teams in two successive seasons.
A little trepidation. You don't say. After 2 teams in 2 seasons, none of it's your fault. I know. Daryl Morey will take me, and I'll go to the 76ers with Joel Embiid, and I'll win a championship.
Ask the producer to pipe this into the Clippers locker room so I can talk to you, James. I hope you're taking notes. I'm telling you in advance, you're welcome for the wisdom I'm about to spew. Because, listen, I get on my knees every night and pray for someone to believe in me like Daryl Morey believed in you. You wanted a certain coach, they brought in Mike D'Antoni. You wanted to play a certain style, they played it. You wanted Dwight Howard, they brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him. You wanted Chris Paul, they brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him. They brought in your old friend Russell Westbrook. You wanted to go to Vegas on off days? They looked away. You wanted the team to stay over so you could go out at night? They changed the schedule, and it didn't work. And you know what? You said, I'm going to break up with my whoopee. Not good enough. I see the bright lights in New York. I want to go there. My old pal, Kevin Durant. It's going to work. The big 3. And all after 1 year, you wanted out. You realized, oh my gosh, I took this guy for granted, the guy that believed in me. I went back with Daryl Morey. They traded Ben Simmons for you. How did they pull that off? And you know what? You went there and you got a partner who got the MVP. He won the MVP. And what did you say afterwards? You said, they didn't hand me the reins. You're the point guard. You were holding the reins. And what did you do when you had the reins? You scored 9 points in Game 7 against Boston. You blew a 3-2 series lead. So they fired their coach. Not good enough. You broke up with the guy who believed in you again. You said, the bright lights of LA, that's where I want to go. Let's see if that works. Listen, James, have you ever had those friends who had bad roommates? Over and over, they complained about their bad roommates. This guy's terrible. The bad roommate here. They never thought to be self-aware enough that they're the bad roommate. They're the problem. Hey, James, you're the problem. If this doesn't work this year in this system with this team, then you're going to go and point fingers at everybody else, and you're going to go back home and you're going to start swiping right for another team, and there's not going to be anybody left. Because, James, you're not the beard, you're not the system, you're the problem.
Oh, and the mic drop, Devin.
On February 10th, 2022, the Nets traded James Harden and Paul Millsap to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round selections. On February 25th, Harden made his Sixers debut. He would put up 27 points, 12 assists, and 8 rebounds, hyping 76er fans all around the globe. But in typical James Harden fashion, playoff comes, I disappear. Joel Embiid gets hurt, 76ers lose, and yet again, James Harden wants out. The point of this video was not to point out James Harden's failures. It was to point out his style of play. He reminded me of players like Carmelo Anthony, a guy that, yeah, of course, can score at such a high level, but always demanded the ball, put up nothing but bad shots, and played no defense, and then would try to bail themselves out stat-wise by relying on the refs to call unnatural motion foul calls so that it didn't look like they were having a bad game. A turnover-prone prima donna. It makes you wonder, what could James Harden have been had he accepted his 6-man role with Oklahoma City Thunder, stayed with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and actually tried to be a dynasty? What if they would have grown together? How great could they have truly been? For that, we'll never know. But for now, guys, it's your boy Keegan. I appreciate all the likes, shares, and subscribes. I'll see you on the next one.